Hey everybody, my name is Jess, and you don't know me yet, but you're going to soon. Today, I'm going to tell you a story. It's my story, and I think it's really important to tell. I think it's really important for all of us to tell our stories, because really stories are what we live by. It's what tells our history and how we form ideas about our future. So here goes. I'm pretty freaked out about it. Where to start a story is always difficult. Do you start it in childhood? If you started in childhood, then we're a pretty weak beginning. I was born to parents who were way too young to have me, and they were drug and alcohol addicted, which meant that I grew up in a really unstructured environment. I was homeless on and off, and I witnessed and was subject of a lot of things that a child should never see or do. And part of that was some horrific abuse and neglect. And it was scary, and it was really confusing. And as I grew up and moved out of the house, became an adult, all of those ways of coping, it just became worse and worse. I put myself in bad situations, and I treated myself really badly, and I let others treat me really badly. My life for such a long time was so up and down. I'd ride the highs and then I'd crash the lows, and it burnt me out a lot of the time. But honestly, I had no idea what was going on or how to get out of it. Fast forward to about 4.5 years ago, I met the father of my daughter, and eventually we had our daughter and we got married. Over a period of about 2 years, we just dug into each other and destroyed bits of each other. And eventually it got so bad that it really was obvious that I had to leave. We had to be separate. When I left my marriage, what I now know was that I've had a mental illness, and I did not know that at the time. I was angry and resentful and unsatisfied. That motherhood that was so coveted, that I wanted so badly, all of a sudden it felt like a prison. And I was just lost and angry. So when we finally did separate, I was already just barely a shell of who I used to be. And the stress of divorcing or separating was too much for me to handle. It landed me in the hospital. And this is really difficult to say, because coming from such a bad background, I pride myself on my strength. I'm a survivor. I survive things. That's my role, has been my role. And for me to say I couldn't handle life, so I had to be in the hospital, that's difficult, but it's true. I had a mental illness, and I went in. They knew that I wasn't in danger of killing myself, but that I was just really overwhelmed and needed a lot of help. So they put me in an outpatient program. The first thing they did was give me medication, which, everybody has their own opinion on, but honestly helped me a lot. It slowed everything in my brain down so that I could really focus on learning the things I needed to learn to take care of myself mentally. I did receive diagnoses, and I received so many tools and skills and just such fantastic information on how to best take care of my mind and make sure this didn't happen again. So I completed that program, and I was on top of the world. I mean, it had been difficult, and it still wasn't easy at that point, but man, it was so much better. I waited a couple weeks, did really well, and then I decided that I wanted to go up and see my daughter. My ex-husband had come down and retrieved her and brought her up with him so that I could really focus on my wellness. But I missed the crap out of her. So I traveled up to go see her. Kind of my first mistake, because I decided to stay at the house. I was receiving help for my issues, but my ex-husband hadn't yet had the option to do that, as he was taking care of our daughter. So he was still wrapped up in that mindset of just that we had built together. I made 2 realizations that trip. The first was almost right off the bat. My ex-husband and I were not going to work. So this role, this promise that I had brought on myself to be a wife, I failed. I broke a promise and I failed. And it was crushing. And the second realization happened shortly thereafter. I watched my daughter with my ex-husband, and honestly, I didn't expect them to do as well as when I was there. I guess I thought I controlled more, or I helped more. Like, somehow I was pivotal to that situation. But they were doing okay. They were surviving without me. And it sounds crazy, but that made me feel like a failure too. I thought, well, I failed as a wife, and obviously I failed as a mother if she doesn't even need me. So, what is my worth? These are the 2 roles, the 2 things that I'm doing with my life, and I failed at both of them in the biggest way possible. So, what's the point? I took 4 bottles of pills into the bedroom with me, and I had the cap almost off one when my ex-husband came bursting through the door. He had heard the jangle of the pills coming down the hallway, and he took them from me, and he called the police. And I'll never forget how I felt that day. I really wanted to die. I just wanted to be done. It was too painful. It was too painful to have failed at such major things, and to feel so hollow and like you have no purpose. It was so difficult and scary. I'd never been in the back of a police car before, but the policeman was awesome. He played jazz on the way to the hospital and stayed with me until a nurse was able to come out and get me. And they checked me into an inpatient psych ward, which I lovingly refer to as the loony bin. The whole check-in process took about 28 hours, most of which I was in the ER. And if anybody spent any major time in the ER, they know that it never stops. They never dim the lights. They never slow down. The noise never stops. It's 24 hours a day, every single day. And when you're on suicide watch, you can never be alone. Not even to go number 2. So I felt violated and scared more than anything. I just wanted to die. I wanted them to let me die. I didn't want to be there anymore. So it was just torture that they were keeping me alive and watching me, and oh, it was awful. And eventually I got moved to the inpatient unit, but that wasn't much better. All of a sudden, I have walked through 2 sets of giant metal doors that I could hear click behind me. I was locked in, and I didn't have a choice. I asked the policeman and the social worker who admitted me. I didn't have a choice. For the first 4 days I was there, it was pretty rough. I didn't want to live, and everything was scary. Everything was overwhelming. They put us in these horrible paper scrubs and gave us awful coffee, and it was overwhelming. On the 4th day, I got a phone call from my best friend. I went up and took it, and I heard her voice on the other side of the line, really small. She asked, "What happened? What happened, Jess? Is everything okay?" And I had repeated this story so many times that at this point I was just robotic. There was no inflection in my voice, no emotion. And I told her what happened. When I was done, I heard this really strange noise on the other side of the line. I didn't know what it was at first. It took me a while to identify it. And then I realized it was my best friend sobbing. She was sobbing on the other end of the line. And I was shocked. I mean, I didn't know what I expected her reaction to be, but I was just flabbergasted. I guess I thought she was going to lecture me or laugh with me, try to help me laugh it off, but she was sobbing. And at that moment, this massive realization happened. All of a sudden I realized I'm worth more. I'm worth more. I'm worth more than being a mother. I'm worth more than being a wife. This person is shaking to her very core with the thought of losing me. And that's what I needed. She saved my life that day. Because from the moment I hung up the phone, I wanted to live. I wanted to live again so bad. At that point, I started trying. I started eating. I even taught a couple classes in the loony bin to the other patients. And after about 8 days, they let me out. I moved back down to my hometown, Portland, and I started a new life for myself. Fast forward a couple years, and here I am. And I have my daughter back. I have full custody of her. She's fabulous. She's almost 4. And I have the most amazing partner in the entire world. We actually grew up together, so we've known each other 13 years, which can be super rewarding because we all have the same inside jokes. And that best friend who saved my life lives with us. Honestly, I couldn't be happier. And it's because I realized my worth, and I made it a priority. The number one priority in my life is my own mental wellness. Because one of my illnesses has a 20% mortality rate. That sounds astronomical to me. So I'm never going to go back to that place. I'm never gonna feel like that again, because it was the scariest place I've ever been, inside my own head. Anyway, I share this story with you today because I want everybody to know how important it is to take care of your mental wellness. Everybody needs to maintain their mental wellness. It's like physical wellness. You know, you wouldn't stop feeding your body, you wouldn't stop, exercising to try to make you feel better. You're not going to stop taking care of yourself. So don't stop taking care of your mental wellness. It nearly killed me. So today what I do is I run a business and I help other people who are struggling with mental wellness issues. I help them with the tools and skills that I learned through my mental health journey. And it's amazing the results. It's amazing the results. I've never been happier. And I'm really, really excited to share some of that with you. As a part of my business, I'll be running this YouTube channel, and I'm going to start sharing with you some of those skills and tips and tricks and all of that. Plus my life. I mean, who doesn't want to show off their kid and their family and their life? So all of that is going to be happening here. So I'd really like for you to join me. I know this is my first video, but do me a favor. Subscribe right down there. Shoot me an email, write a comment. Seriously, you guys. Mental wellness and suicide are such a massive issue. Don't let them go unseen. Click subscribe to not only help yourself, but maybe to help the other people in your life as well. Until next time, namaste, friends.